Welcome to Persaud Pod. I'm your host, Jarrell Persaud, and we're a bit of a change here. I'm bringing in my friend Paul Campbell. He's going to now be the co-host of the show. So it's going to be Persaud Pod with Jarrell Persaud and Paul Campbell. So, how's it going, Paul?
Hey, Jarrell. Thanks for having me back and promoting me to co-host. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So, audience, today we were originally gonna go ahead and debut our second episode that we already shot on Flat Earth, but because of the recent events with the Trump assassination attempt, we are going to delay that episode and discuss the topics of more recent uh, interest. So. Right now, we're gonna get into our theories and everything, and we don't want you to think that this is just a strictly political podcast, being as the first two episodes are, um, you know, politics centered, but we do discuss everything here and any kind of topics that we feel are relevant and that listeners would want to listen to. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So, as everyone is aware that last weekend, Saturday, Donald Trump had a supposed assassination attempt at his rally in Pennsylvania. So, um, one person was killed, and a couple of other people were injured. And our hearts go out to the families of those victims, and we're sorry for your loss. And Donald Trump did suffer an injury, and our hearts do go out to him for that injury. But getting into the meat and potatoes of things, uh, that pretty much sealed the election for him, I think. What do you think, Paul?
Well, yeah. I mean, I would have, without. There's still about 100 days to go until the election, but I can't. I have to. I'm not going to disagree with you. Like I have to agree with you. They basically turned him into a martyr. I saw a rally he did after the RNC, and he said they keep trying to. They keep saying I'm a threat to democracy. I took a bullet for democracy. And it's just they're like, listen, politics isn't that hard. You give people sound bites that are easy to wrap their heads around, they can vote for you. Like you're not some folks, are pay attention to politics quite a bit, so much so that they do a whole podcast where, they ended up talking about politics all the time.
Yeah,
Um, but it's like
it's just coincidence.
right. But the average, what I say is like the average voter, what does the average voter care about? Low taxes, low gasoline, affordable houses, affordable cars, and the stuff that they can budget on, and you know, it's kind of those boilerplates political issues. And I mean, if you shoot a guy, and he was already a sympathetic character, in the sense that you can say, "Oh well, he did such a great job last time," and of course the lefties will say, "No, he didn't," or the Never Trumpers will say, "No, he did a horrible job." But I mean, yeah, inflation was down, strongest economy ever, leading into right up until the pandemic, and so there's a lot of kind of these easy talking points. I remember when Trump was president, gas was 220. Now it's 350. You know,
Yeah, gas is ridiculous. But here's the thing, though. The whole thing to me is it's just too perfect. The assassination attempt, the extreme left party candidates, or not candidates, the extreme left party supporters coming out now and saying that they'll vote for Donald Trump. And the people are throwing out the H word. He's a hero. Blah blah blah. And it's just all too perfect. It's like if I was writing a movie script, I couldn't write a better script than what happened last weekend. You know,
yep.
that would be it. It would be perfect. It would, but we've seen the scenarios in like other movies. Like right after it happened, I immediately went back to watch Shooter because that was the first thing I did. The movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
So how they set him up take the blame for shooting at the president, and they had a second shooter, and now with all this information about there possibly being a second shooter, maybe even a third shooter coming out, it's it's just like I couldn't write a better movie script, and I can't wait to see what movies they come out with. Because of it, there's definitely going to be a movie about the Trump assassination, especially when he does take office, because I mean this sealed it, and Biden is just, he's possibly going to drop out of the race. He's not doing too well as a candidate. He's doing everything in his power to make himself look like the worst candidate, and this is just more fuel for Trump's arsenal.
And it's funny you should it's funny you should mention that, because Biden literally, while we were setting up our audio for this podcast, he dropped out of the race.
Really?
Yep. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, it's a little blurry, but wow, he dropped out.
Yep.
Any word on who's going to take over?
Not yet. Biden makes stunning decision to pull out of 2020 race, per the Washington Post. He's decided he'll end his reelection campaign, he stated in a statement released Sunday, July 21st. The decision certain to send shockwaves throughout the political world following the stumbling debate performance widely alarmed Democrats about the 81-year-old president's fitness for office and the ability to defeat former President Trump. So now, just this as an aside, like that, and we're going to stay on topic with the Trump assassination, but why are they say they're going to assassinate him because he's a threat to democracy, right? Okay, so I don't think I'm telling a lie here or saying anything that nobody was unaware of. We already, for a long time, I would say so far back as 2019, we already had our suspicions about his, cognitive capabilities for Biden, right? Like,
yeah,
he was struggling. Go back and watch the 2020 debate. He was really struggling there, and nobody said anything about that. He notably had, I think he had a stroke in 2018 or something like that we just gloss over. But anyway, the party that says Trump is a threat to democracy, implying somebody needs to step up and take him out. Well, your political candidate, who's yet to be announced, because assuming they announce them, the nomination comes through at their DNC that happens in August. Like that's not who the people voted for in the primaries. You kept RFK Jr. off the ballot in the primaries, so that you could run Biden. Don't you think? Like if you had to ask your Democrat friends who would you rather vote for, I would bet they would say RFK over Biden all day long. RFK is a really likable guy. He's very Democrat on every single issue you can think of except for vaccines. That's the only one where he goes, right wing or whatever you want to call it, conspiracy theory, which at this point, which is crazy, is there's so little difference between those two, things. But really, the party of democracy trying to stop the, potential dictator, their words, not mine, Donald Trump, from reassuming office. You're not even presenting a democratically voted for candidate. You're going to switch one out that the people didn't vote for once you nominate somebody at your convention. So I think the hypocrisy of the left is unbounded. And I'm not saying that the Republicans are any better, but it's just like, holy smokes, you almost, through your rhetoric, you almost get your political opponent assassinated, and then you're doing the thing that you're accusing him of doing. You're not supporting the Democratic vote, and again, we live in a constitutional republic, not a democracy. But what the heck? You can't even get a candidate voted on by your own party.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, And then, so steer back onto the topic, though, the assassination attempt. A lot of stuff going on with that. Like I said, it just, you couldn't write a better movie script than what happened. I mean, the bullet narrowly missing, and when it first happened, I was like, "What did you shoot him with? A 22? Just clipped his ear a little bit,
Yeah.
Did they even ever release what kind of caliber round it was that he fired from? Like, I didn't hear anything about it.
I've been looking into it. I just assumed he used an AR, but we don't even know what the rifle looked like. You don't know what round he used.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you figure all this stuff would be, you know, public information by now, but it's like, no, I mean, it's not, it's kind of ridiculous. And then for him to be that close to the stage to get on the roof that the actual sniper team was inside of, the sniper team was inside the building that he was on top of the roof of, and then the snipers across the fairway or the vantage point didn't take a shot at him. They had the opportunities, and then the CIA director lady. She comes out and she's like, "Oh, well, they didn't get on that roof because it has a slope, but the other roof that the other snipers were on were even more sloped than that
right.
roof." You know?
Yeah, it wasn't CIA. It was Cheadle, who's the head of a lady named Cheadle, who's the head of the Secret Service. She
Yeah,
was
that's right. Yeah, sorry.
she's been in the Secret Service since I think she was Dick Cheney's on his team or whatever when he was VP. So she was in the Secret Service when I think Obama when Obama was there, and then Biden appointed her in 2022 to be head of the Secret Service. And the first thing she comes out is talks about how important diversity and inclusion is, and why that's the number one her number one objective is to make diversity and inclusion the top priority at the Secret Service. Well, listen, I don't have anything against diversity and inclusion per se, but like, yeah, if you're good enough to do the job, you should be allowed to do the job. Like, there shouldn't be any reason why you wouldn't get hired. The issue is that I feel like I'm of the opinion. Let's say like I'm somebody that really supports diversity and inclusion. Well, why as a if I'm Cheadle and I'm trying to push forward this objective, which is a noble one if you're coming in from the right places of, we want to make sure that if you can do a job that there's nothing stopping you from doing it, no sort of bigotry or a pre-drawn conclusions about who you are as a person, your capabilities. If you can do the job, you should be allowed to have the opportunity to do the job. Then when you have the worst catastrophic failure since Kennedy or since Reagan got shot, like there's been only two other
Yeah,
instances in American history in the last 100 years where the Secret Service screwed the pooch this bad.
yeah.
And then the first thing like, and then you come out and you're like, oh no, I'm very proud of the people that I did. Like, you're
It's
shooting
crazy. Yeah, and
you're
then you
shooting
have the
yourself in the foot.
And then you have the other Secret Service agent. She couldn't holster her weapon properly. She's like struggling with it, and then they're all kind of like ducking down. It's ridiculous. And you know uh, what I don't get is they failed so stupendously at protecting the president and just the general public at that rally. And then Donald Trump goes like literally 2 days later and goes to another convention, and then goes to the RNC. And if my Secret Service agents failed horribly and I got shot, I would not be out in public like the very next day, having, it's like, I would be like doing an internal investigation, kind of having these guys, vetted. I would be pushing dates. But I mean, it's been like a very strategic staged opportunity here. He's like coming out and he's like, fight, fight, fight. And
Yeah.
did you see this? His granddaughter gave like an incredible speech about him,
Hmm.
like, oh, he's just my grandfather. And
Yep.
it's crazy, man. It's like tugging at the heartstrings, of people.
Yeah, it is. It is. We're gonna and there. It's extremely remarkable, which is why we're remarking on it. That it is almost too good to be true from a political standpoint. Like, and you have to acknowledge that. Like, I'm not saying that because how do you plan getting shot in the ear? All right, Mr. Trump, stand really still, and then when the clock hits whatever, make sure you turn your head. When it hits 6:11, 9:11 upside down, by the way. But when it hits 6:11, turn your head so it only hits your ear and doesn't kill you. Like, and I understand people saying, well, that he put a blood pack on the side of his ear. That's you know there was three people got shot, and one guy had his head unfortunately, he was shielding his wife and his daughter when he got shot in the head.
Yeah.
And you can see the bullets hitting the opposite side of the stage and banging off the railings and stuff like that. So it is the greatest live deception in the history of the world, and we're watching a movie like, or it is what it is kind of a deal. Like, I think,
I mean, like
I'm
I
not saying
don't
one way
believe
or
in
the other. I'm not
I
saying
don't
you're
believe in
wrong.
coincidences,
Yeah.
but that was filled with that day was filled with a lot of crazy coincidences, you know?
And
So I
yeah.
mean, it's like it's hard to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow. I think that's why a lot of like initial reactions of people when it happened was like, oh, it was staged. That's crazy. I mean, especially if there's a second shooter. That kid was just probably a scapegoat to. I mean, come on, let's.
Yeah.
We're in the conspiracy side of the podcast world here. So that kid could have been just a scapegoat to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, while the real shooter took his shot to, do what was intended. I mean, that's a possibility, but, I
Here's
don't think we'll ever really know the truth. It'll just be conspiracy theories for everyone.
Oh yeah. Well, why would they tell us anything? Why would the government want a well-informed, educated, and savvy, discerning public? No, they want people who are fat, dumb, and happy, just watching their reality TV shows and eating McDonald's. So
Yeah.
here are some quick questions, and don't answer. You can if you know the answers, but these are just some questions that I found online, like kind of in general about the shooters, and I've had two. Where did he train to be a sniper? Who paid for the training? Why have we not seen his social media posts? Why was he in a Black Rock video years ago, a commercial?
Yeah.
Uh, was he chosen to be a groom? Was he chosen to be groomed to be a sniper? Like, was this his life's mission, or is it who picks up sniping one day? How did a 20-year-old fund everything? He had like an AR is not cheap. And if this guy was like a recluse who never had a job in his life, where did he get the money to buy a $1,000 rifle plus 500 rounds? Bought 50 rounds the day of. Also had the wherewithal to purchase, build, and successfully build a bomb, some sort of IED with a remote detonation device that
With
they.
no previous search history for explosives, like
Right.
where did he learn how to do that? It's crazy. Maybe he learned it in Black Rock School.
Yeah. Were there any unusual deposits into his accounts giving him said money? Did he write a manifesto or write some sort of declaration? Did he belong to Antifa or the Proud Boys or any militia, any sort of one wing or the other group? And why have we not heard from his parents? We heard from all the families who got shot. The people of the families and the people who were shot themselves that survived. They all had a comment, even though the one guy got shot right in the liver. He's met with Trump and talked to him on the phone, or I think they Skyped or something. But why haven't we heard from his parents? All we know about his parents is his dad was some sort of behavioral psychologist. That's it.
Yeah.
And I know there was a bunch of pictures of him, supposedly him with long hair and pierced lips, looking like a girl. I don't know if that was him. It kind of looks like him, but I don't think that was him because all the pictures I've seen of him, including the one on of him in the BlackRock commercial, which was from a few years ago. He has short hair in every single picture I've seen him, and then the bloody photo of his head after he supposedly got shot, which again he got shot and they took a picture of him. How come all the blood on his head was already dried?
Yeah.
And it didn't really look like him if you ask me. But I mean, I guess your
Yeah,
head might look a little bit different if you get hit
it's
by a
very
bullet.
suspicious. Very suspicious. The whole just everything surrounding it. It's like one of those, did Oswald kill Kennedy? It's like, who are the two guys on the grassy knoll? It's crazy.
You want a
Yeah.
real good theory about that one, JFK, just as an aside, is that it was George H.W. Bush who was one of the men on the grassy knoll, and
Really?
that's how he made his bones to become the CIA director eventually. But that's not proven. That's just speculation, but something to think about.
That's a good one. Really? George H.W. Bush was the guy on the grassy knoll. Wow.
Again, just a theory. There's a dude in a gray jacket that looks like him. Just saying.
Yeah. So no, yeah, there's just a lot of questions and more questions. Every time you ask a question, there's like more questions. Like, you know, as a person that can shoot a 300-meter target in the face within, AR-15, I know that shot is not easy, just to get it, like, just barely miss by, like, or to accurately hit, just an ear, whether it was calculated or I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, let me ask you this, because you've fired, rifles way more than I have, and probably than most of our viewers have. If you're going to try to shoot somebody from a long distance, say about 150 yards, where are you going to be aiming?
You're not aiming for the head if you're shooting a rifle. You're not aiming for the head. You're aiming center mass, and then that bullet, as it travels over distance, is gonna go up, and it's gonna hit it. Like so, when I shoot like a if I shoot a target that's supposedly 150 meters away, I'm aiming for like the belly button, and the belly, and that round is going to hit like somewhere around the chest or the neck or even the head. If I'm shooting a 300-meter target, I'm aiming center mass directly right at the solar plex, and that's where the bullet will hit in the face automatically. You know,
Yeah, let me ask you. So I've heard of the bullet dropping over great distances. I haven't heard of it going up. Is that because, well, I think I have, but it's due to the bullet kind of spinning just due to, like,
yes, it's a
literally when it's
trajectory.
fired?
So,
Yeah.
you aim low, you aim midpoint at the body, and the round kind of goes up as it goes over time. It'll eventually drop, but as it goes
Right.
out, it'll go up.
Okay. So not if I'm shooting at a target 1,000 yards away, then I got to worry about the drop. But if it's
Yeah,
within that 300-yard range, it's going to come up a little bit. Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
So, I mean, it's just, the whole mechanics of, you know, where was he aiming? What was he trying to do? I mean, I'm pretty sure if he was aiming for a body shot instead of a headshot, he would have hit, but like it's just
Yeah.
crazy that the spot that was hit was just the ear, and then it was like timed correctly to turn, you know, at the right angle. It's just
Well, do you think that maybe lends to the idea that he was an amateur who wasn't necessarily a good shot? I heard, and again, I heard this on the TV, so you take that for what it will. But apparently, they interviewed some of his high school fellow high schoolers, people he went to high school with, and they said that he didn't make the school shooting team. He actually failed out on his test, so he didn't qualify to be on the shooting team at his high school. I don't know if that's true or not. We're just going off of that.
schools
Really,
have shooting teams now.
in 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 the middle of nowhere, PA, in Farmville, PA, you better believe it. It's
What?
still America.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
is in rural areas they definitely have them, especially places with hunting. But yeah, he apparently the school he went to offered that. Um, and we can assume it was a private school. I mean, after all, maybe we can assume it's a nicer school. I don't know if it was private or not, but it must have been nice if BlackRock is trying to film commercials there to recruit people from the area, so it
Yeah.
you can assume it would have these sort of programs if it's kind of hand selected. They wouldn't necessarily go to a not so nice school. But anyhow, I think that kind of lends to the idea that because he was aiming for the head as opposed to center mass, which is the easier shot. And Donald Trump's a big guy. I mean, let's be honest, you got a lot of real estate down there. You
Yeah.
know, it seems to me lending credence to the idea that he was not a very good shot, was a patsy. There could possibly be a second shooter on the water tower behind him. There's been videos that have been coming out. You can see a shadow on top of the water tower moving around. Who
Yeah.
knows? And also, if that were the case, then why weren't people standing in front of Trump immediately in the crowd hit? Only people behind him or to the side of him, off behind him from where the shooter was,
I,
150
I wasn't
yards
there,
away.
so I don't have, I mean, it's not like one of those Kennedy situations where you have all the details of the lay of the land and where he was positioned at the same time. So I mean, without like a laser rangefinder or anything, to calculate the angles of everything, I can't sit there and say, okay, the rounds definitely came from the water tower or the rounds came from that building.
Yeah, well, I'm what I'm saying is I don't think they're based on the evidence. I have no evidence of a second shooter. I have a grainy video and that's it. All I have right now is the patsy. Well, the guy, what I don't even know his name. Isn't that so weird? Crooks, I think
Yeah.
is his last name.
Yeah.
The only evidence I have is that a shot was fired at Trump's ear, hit him in the ear, and it was from this one guy who was a horrible shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, like and besides like the looking at it and what happened in the events, at 6/11 on a Saturday, July 13th. Which, by the way, if in Europe they do the dates the day first, then the month, then the year, right? So
Yeah.
137 is actually the 33rd prime number. So if it was 13 July 137, it's the 33rd prime number. Fun fact, 33 vertebrae in the spine. Jesus died at age 33. There's 33 degrees of Freemasonry. So 33 is a very important number. But like that's conspiracy stuff. But like when it comes to this actual event of what we watched, he had brandished a firearm at a police officer who was trying to get on top of the building. And after that, that was an hour prior, and they just left him alone.
Yeah.
The Secret Service in the video can be seen on their sloped roof. Of course, they weren't allowed to go on the other sloped roof because it was too dangerous. They can be seen with the sniper aiming at him, and they don't do anything until after he takes the shot.
Yeah, actually, they don't do anything till after he gets off like three or four other shots.
And I counted 11 shots total. And Trump said in the RNC speech that one bullet was fired and it killed him. So
Yeah.
so Trump is telling us one bullet was fired. I heard 11 shots get fired, and supposedly it was 3 shots that almost hit his head. It's the one that hit him. He then, when he moved his head and grabbed his ear, another one went by his head. He heard that one, which is why he ducked down. And when he ducked down, another one came over the top. And so there was 3 headshots, one that hit his ear, 2 that missed, but there were 11 shots fired in total. Trump, at his own word, in his first speech since getting shot, said the sniper fired 1 bullet. And I don't think Trump, a lot of stuff he does is kind of like off the cuff. He just says stuff, but he also says things extremely intentionally because he knows the type of, he knows his base. And we research everything that goes on around this guy because, well, I mean, just that's the way we are. We don't trust the news. So if he says something, if he points at something, we go and research it, using the most powerful information sharing device in the history of the world called the internet. So I think he said 1 bullet on purpose because I heard 11 rounds. And you can go back and listen to that. Crack, he holds his ear, starts to duck down, crack, crack. That's the 3. And then there's 8 more after that when the incompetent Secret Service, thank you, comes and runs and gets him.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what's that? That's another question. Did he fire 3 rounds? Did he fire 11 rounds? Was that like, so just I have more and more questions like you say, every time you find something out, you have 10 more questions from that little bit of information that you just found out.
Yeah. So it's a little ridiculous. All the stuff. I gotta say though, that photo of Trump raising his fist, going fight, and Secret Service agents, around him, and the flag flying in the background. God, that's gonna be more famous than the Iwo Jima flag photo. I think.
Yeah,
That's crazy. That's like the perfect picture. I mean, you've seen them on hats and T-shirts now already. That is crazy.
and people are wearing the bandage ear,
Yeah.
like I don't like. Hey, there's always going to be a cult of personality thing going on with politics, and unfortunately, it's been directed towards a lot of people that should not be in leadership roles over the last 70 years or whatever. But yeah, I think that, well, one of the let me pull up something that I was thinking about here. I wrote it. I wrote it down here. Hold on. Yeah, one of the things that I think is crazy is the same party that calls for gun control says the shooter didn't miss. And if we could dedicate this whole podcast just to two-faced things that the Democrat Party does, like, okay, if you're the party of ideas and nonviolence, then why are you talking? Why is your rhetoric so violent? And Trump has said fight, fight, fight. That famously, right when he
Yeah.
got shot, he did that. You can find montages of the past 8 years. Maxine Waters, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, you name it. They're saying fight, fight, fight. If you see somebody walking down the street, punch them in the head if they're wearing a MAGA hat. Maxine Waters said that in 2016. The BLM riots were, I think, more Antifa than anything else. Like I think that those were a left wing organic thing that happened. All those riots that happened in 2020.
Yeah.
Look at the violence in Democrat controlled cities, how bad these cities are with their violence. People can't walk down the streets of New York because like old ladies are getting punched in the head and getting killed for walking down the street. Remember Stop Asian Hate, where right after the coronavirus,
Yeah.
happened,
They were
all these
attacking
Asian people
random
were
Asian
getting
people.
attacked.
Yeah.
Like these aren't, all of this fight, fight, fight is coming from one side of the aisle. And our side of the aisle, the Republicans are completely useless. They're all just a bunch of they're no better than the Democrats. They complain about what the Democrats do. They don't do anything to defend us because they're going to be taken care of. They have their pension. They have their millions of dollars in insider trading with stocks. They're taken care of. They don't care what happens to you and me. But all of the rhetoric comes from the left side, all this violence. The right side doesn't do anything about it, just complains about it. And now Trump says, fight, fight, fight. Oh, he's telling his supporters to go and do all of these violent things. Look at this violent language he uses. No, at what point you're the guy? You Trump is being told that he's being too violent. He just got shot in the ear.
Yeah. He's the victim.
Like what?
Yeah.
So what more?
But that's crazy though that he would stand up and do that right at that moment. It's like, for that photo opportunity. No, like, dude, stay down. There's shots still being fired.
Yeah,
The
and
threat's
also
not nuclear. How are your Secret Service agents allowing that? And how are they allowing a cameraman to point a black object at you to take photos while there's active gunfire? It's crazy. It's just the whole situation does not make sense. It's too perfect. It's too perfectly scripted for me to sit there and say, hey, oh man, like when I watched the planes hit the towers on 9/11. I didn't see the first one hit. I was sleeping. I was in my bed. My brother came to the room, said a plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I was like, what movie are you watching? you
right.
know, I had stayed home from school that day. I was sleeping. And then I got up and then I saw the second plane hit and I immediately knew. I'm like, okay, this is coordinated. This is an attack.
Yeah.
This isn't a coincidence. And that same kind of bell alarm went off, seeing this assassination attempt. I'm like, okay, that's just too perfect. It's not coincidence. You can't just sit there and say all these little things, all these minute details are, just random occurrences that happened. Um, somebody somebody planned out this whole situation, whether it was the shooter that planned it out, the Democratic Party, hell, even the Republican Party and Trump himself. If they plan it, there's a lot of unanswered questions that leaves more unanswered questions. And I just feel that there's a larger factor playing into this whole situation than what we the public is led to believe. And we the public, we're given, of course, minimal information. They're not going to give us enough information to make an educated decision. They want us to think like a herd of sheep, run with the masses. Like when the buffalo start charging, one starts running, everyone starts running. you know
if you had to guess, and again, we're just speculating. I don't have any sources that nobody else has access to. It's not like I can call my buddy who works, who was there or anything like that, or who works for the Secret Service. But if you had to venture a guess, and who would you put the blame on of the three candidates, possibilities that you said? The shooter himself acted alone. Whatever they say is the story, is the story. The Democrats, and you would assume Biden and Obama, or having some sort of, interest in taking out a political rival, or it's the Trump himself somehow coordinated all of this, and it's just all a big movie anyway. Like, I always look at these things like three different levels. There's the
So you
narrative,
want to hear my
there's good
my
versus
actual opinion?
evil, and then they're all in on it. Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So my actual opinion is that it's Trump himself in the party. That was my first instinct because, I mean, if you're gonna take a shot at the president and you only wound him, that that's too perfect.
The
I mean,
political benefits from that.
yeah,
Yeah,
you wound yourself so you can secure the election. You know, if if Trump was actually assassinated and the shooter got a headshot off and hit his mark, then I'd be like, okay, it was the Democratic Party, you know. But the way it happened, and it's not like you can question the shooter now because he's dead,
right.
So you know, and as even if he wasn't dead, he'd be in some CIA black site somewhere, being interrogated, and nobody would ever hear from him again until they're ready to do like a public trial, just for a show for people. But no, I think my opinion is this was organized by the party. The kid wasn't the one that took the shot. The real shot came from the water tower. The kid was there as a scapegoat. You know. So.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong, because we're just speculating. So neither of us can be wrong, even if we disagree. And I see the merits of your argument because it is so suspiciously perfect. It just seems like put it this way, it wouldn't be that hard to fake it if you knew what you were doing, if they were all in on it. In other words, let's just run with your idea. Let's just talk it through. We're not saying that this is, he did this. We're just saying let's actually have a conversation. They get some nobody or some, they recruit this young man somehow. Maybe he is really a secret agent and he just looks like he's 20 and he's really 30 years old and he's the best, he's just like Edward Snowden, kind of this nerdy looking guy that
I mean,
works
he
for the
could be 20.
CIA.
He could be
But
20.
anyway,
I
they
mean, 'cause,
they acquire their
soldiers are recruited at
yeah.
17.
Oh, for 100%, 100%. But so they have this young man in place. Trump says, "Listen, I'm pretty sure I'm going to win, but I know for a fact that I will win, if they make a martyr out of me and I get injured standing up for, America." So they hire a local uh, firefighter and say, "Listen, we're going to put a blood pack on the back of your hat, inside your hat, and what you're going to do is you're going to play dead, and we're going to have it very public that you're going to be pulled off and thrown into a ambulance. And listen, money's in the bank. We're going to send you off to Bermuda. And then your family can come after with you after 6 months. And then they have explosive devices like that you would have in a movie to go off as if the bullets were hitting behind him and this sort of stuff. And of course, they have and anyhow, these are the things that would need to happen and occur because the shots went off at 6:11. So that means they could have been coordinated. They didn't go off at 6:11 and 30 seconds. It's when it flipped to that moment, which is again 9/11 upside down is 6:11, and you know how they love their symbolism and all this sort of stuff. We talked about 33.
Yeah.
Then Trump just goes. He looks over at the clock. He sees it goes to 6:11. He smacks his ear, drops down. They're just firing blanks at him. The police knew he was going to be there, which is why they didn't act. The Secret Service was waiting for him to take the shot before they did their shot, which was also a blank. And Trump is made a political hero. He's allowed to stand back up. and say fight, 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 because everybody knows he's not going to get hit because they're just shooting blanks anyway. This is all coordinated, and then they drag him back, and then Trump gets to also, since he's making this, he knew that his detachment was going to be of Secret Service agents was going to be sent to Pittsburgh to cover Joe Biden. They would have notified him of that, and then they got in the B group or whatever. These are all people that don't work for him, so they don't need to know what's going on. They don't have to be good at their job. In fact, it's better if they're bad at their job. They don't have to be in on it. They just have to be told to show up at a certain time at a certain place and do a certain thing. And all they have to do is react naturally because Trump knows he's not going to get hit. The only two people that really in all of this, that because the police were told to stand down, probably by the Secret Service, the only two people that would need to be in on this that weren't Trump himself would be the two shooters, right? Because those are at the end of the day, those are the most
Yeah.
important guys, right? Everybody
Yeah.
else, and in this scenario, the folks that got shot who are
Yeah.
in the fraternities and in these, secret societies, that there's a fraternal order of police, they're Masons. There's a fraternal order of firefighters, they're Masons. So Trump is allegedly a Mason. I don't think he is, but like these are the types of groups that would get recruited for this sort of operation.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's not that hard to do if only really 3 to 4 people need to be in on it, and you can pay them all off. And Trump's already a billionaire who wants this to happen. And the last point I wanted to make is because they had all these different people, yeah, make sure that they're out of shape women. Get me those recruits because then I can say, oh, by the way, DEI doesn't work, and that advances my political agenda too. So don't tell me that, and you're not. I'm agreeing with you here. Don't tell me that Trump doesn't stand to benefit from faking his shooting. He definitely does for all the reason for getting elected is the number one reason, but also it
yeah.
advances his political agenda. He's friends with the Kennedys, who clearly have beef with the Secret Service. The Kennedys have a no
Yeah.
lost love for the Secret Service over the years, right? And he's
Yeah.
friends with the Kennedys, so making them look bad is just extra good for him. He wants his guys to look good, so he sends them off to watch Jill Biden for the night, so they don't get thrown under the bus, right? I could definitely see how it would take place, why it would take place, and it would not be that hard to pull off. You just have to rig a set all to go off at 6:11. You start shooting, you pop off the fake rounds that are the bullets ricocheting, and
Yeah.
Trump is safe the whole time. He gets his moment that's going to get him elected. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
100% I could see how
One
that's
one one thing I
plausible.
want to see is how come they haven't shown any footage of his ear torn by the bullet? Like
I
all
saw,
you see is the bandage. Just like take a
well,
picture of his torn ear.
there are pictures of it, but to your point, it's basically like a dark splotch on his ear. It's
Yeah.
not like it was torn in half. I remember watching a football game where a referee got in the middle of a tackle. He got like just clipped and it cut his ear in half. The same way that would have happened to Trump with the bullet whizzing by. And you could tell it's a flap. Like, yeah, it's cartilage, so it's stiff. But I was not like put it this way, if his ear had like blown off, I would be
Mhm.
like, holy smokes. Like, but it didn't, did it? It kind of just got really bloody. And it wasn't
Yeah.
even that much blood. It was like that much, a little here, and that was it.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that could be he grab his ear at 6:11. It could be a blood pack that was put on when he was down in the little huddle, just to show, just to come up right now for the opportunity for that fight, fight, fight photo. I mean, it's just it's very suspicious, very suspicious. But anyways, so that's our episode for today for the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. What are your thoughts? We want to know what does the world think happened that day? Did Donald Trump rig his own assassination attempt? Did the left plan his assassination attempt? Was it just some crazy gunman, lone shooter, 20-year-old kid who decided, hey, I'm going to change the world and do something? You let us know. Leave some message in the comments. Go ahead and stitch and sew this video and, let us know what you think. So this is Persaud Pod. I'm your host, Jarrell Persaud and Paul Campbell. And we want to thank you guys for listening and stay tuned for our next episode.